hear this flicker on my bars, and I look over and it's Old Timer's hand. He's flicking my bars with a note, and I open it up and it says, "Youngblood, if you going out to the yard today, I would skip it. Them two gangs out there I heard was gonna pop off. Also, if you crunch up the spicy hot Cheetos and mix them with the water before you boil the rice, it'll color the rice and flavor it and make it taste like the streets."
From NCPR and the Adirondack Center for Writing, this is The Howl. True stories, no notes. I'm Ethan Shanty. Have you ever had food that was so good that it changed your life? Well, almost a decade ago now, I helped a friend move out to Phoenix, Arizona to take up the spare room in my brother's apartment. And this food that we had was so delectable, so transcendent, that I considered staying there in Arizona myself. If it were up to me, I'd eat Mexican food 3 meals a day. And so I was excited to travel to Phoenix because I thought that I'd be able to get some of the most authentic Mexican food in the world, short of going over the border. One time while we were there, I even bought fresh tamales out of the back of this old woman's trunk, and they were spectacular. The apartment that my brother lived in was in this run-down little neighborhood. Every morning we'd wake up to car alarms, and one day his neighbor's kitchen window actually got shot out. It was pretty rough. But one of the selling points was a 24-hour burrito place right at the end of the street, and that seemed pretty great to me. Filiberto's, I'll never forget the name, and I should have known when I walked in and the place reeked like bleach that it was going to be a bad time. But, when in Rome. So I got a couple of chicken tacos, I washed it down with some Tecate, and I promptly went to sleep on my brother's pull-out couch, and a few hours later I woke up totally inconsolable. I'd had the worst nightmare of my life. Something about my mom and a gigantic haunted circus. I don't really remember all of it now, but I must have sobbed for a half an hour then. And that was the last time I went to Filiberto's. And that was kind of a bummer, right? I'd been so excited for authentic Mexican cuisine, and my first week there, I get poisoned. But our last day there, my brother convinced me, try again. He made reservations at this place called Taco Guild, this Mexican restaurant built into an old renovated church, still had the stained glass windows and the pews and everything, and I said, well, sure, let's go. I was a little nervous, still reeling from my Filiberto's taco nightmare, but as soon as we opened that big church door, I knew we were in the right spot. The music was modern club, no Gregorian chant or anything, and there was this kitschy little neon sign on the wall that said, "Feed me tacos and tell me I'm pretty." It was kind of an aesthetic enigma, but it was exactly the vibe that I needed. I ordered 3 tacos. I still remember them all these years later. Coffee braised beef, mahi-mahi, and pulled pork. And when I tell you that when I took that first bite of coffee braised beef, I was furious. I could have overturned the table because it was the best thing that I've ever tasted, and the next morning I'd be leaving Phoenix and Taco Guild, maybe forever. I mean, this thing was magic. I couldn't believe that we'd been there for a month and a half, and I'd only get to have it this one time. Like your first love, it was over too soon. We said our tearful goodbyes the next morning and started the 2,000-mile trek back to Potsdam, the taste of coffee braised beef and street corn still on my tongue, each miserable mile taking me further and further away from the chic, sweet atmosphere of Taco Guild. I dreamt of it at each motel along the way, its stained glass windows calling me back, and those dreams persisted when I finally made it back to the North Country. Okay, so my fears were a little unfounded. I have been back since, and I'll keep going back whenever I have the money for a plane ticket. So Taco Guild, if you're out there listening, shine on, you crazy diamond. For the most part, I've got to rely on other people to make transcendent food. I'm really only capable of a few dishes, and those are the ones where you just toss whatever ingredients are in the fridge into a big pot. I learned that from growing up in a big house with lots of mouths to feed. And telling this story, I realized that we all come to our cooking abilities, good and bad, in different ways. Today's storyteller, Sam Daring from Saranac Lake, came to his particular brand of flavor infusion while behind bars. Here he is in the NCPR studios.
My first mentorship in the kitchen was from my mama. When I was like 3, she taught me how to take the bowl out of the cabinet and put it on the floor next to the fridge and pour the cereal in the bowl and then shuffle the heavy milk container out of the fridge and hold it in between my legs and pour it into the bowl till it filled up. And that action gave me independence, which was in my nature, and the love for the kitchen stayed with me. Now, my second mentorship in the culinary field, which is what I'm here to talk about, was from a cat named Old Timer. Now, Old Timer was hard to get a mentorship with when I was in my teens because He was located in a maximum security state penitentiary in Comstock, New York. But at the time, I was ambitious and troubled with daddy issues, so I was able to make my way to the judge. And the first time I saw the judge, he told me, "Go home and don't come back." So the second time I saw the judge, he said, "Shoot, you trying to get an education. You should head over to the county jail and check that out." So I learned everything I could from the county jail about cooking. And the third, fourth, or maybe the fifth time I saw the judge, he said, "Shoot, heck, man, you trying to get a degree. You need to check out the state penitentiary. But don't worry, it's going to be a medium security prison, not a maximum." So off I went. But turns out they got judges there too. So I got into a little scuffle buffle, and I saw the judge, and the judge said, "Shoot, heck, man, you trying to get a PhD. You need to go off to the maximum security state penitentiary in Comstock, New York, J Block, cell 17, right next to Old Timer. He was in 16. So Old Timer and I, being neighbors, had a little rapport, and we hit it off. And at nighttime, he would cook, and the most delicious aromas would come into my suite. And sometimes he would even share with me. So I'd pass my plastic container through the bars, and he'd pass it back to me with some food in it. And man, the food, it looked and it tasted like the streets. And so I asked Old Timer if he would be my cooking partner, and he agreed. And that was the beginning of my second mentorship in the culinary field with Old Timer. So people got a common misconception about the penitentiary, and that's that you have to go to the mess hall and eat slop. And that's not true. That's only on TV. In real life, they got a thing called a grocery store, but they just call it something else. So at the grocery store, you can get your staples, like a hot pot to boil your rice and your pastas. You can get your cured meats, some powdered cheeses, and your chips, which are your spice, amongst other things. So Old Timer and I, we would go to the grocery store and get our separate things, and then we would share the responsibility of cooking during the week. So one time, I'm in my suite, and I'm starting to cook, starting to prep, and I hear this flickering like paper, like a flicker on my bars. And I look over, and it's Old Timer's hand. He's flicking my bars with a note, and they call it a kite. So I grab the note, and I open it up, and it says, "Youngblood." And that's what he used to call me, not because I was affiliated, just because I was young. Said, "Youngblood, if you going out to the yard today, I would skip it, 'cause them two gangs out there I heard was gonna pop off, and you don't need to be around that. Also, if you crunch up the spicy hot Cheetos and mix them with the water before you boil the rice, it'll color the rice and flavor it and make it taste like the streets. Mexican food. Signed, OT, Old Timer." I skipped the yard that day, stayed in, crushed up them hot Cheetos and put them in the water, and they colored and flavored the rice just like Old Timer said. And just like Old Timer said, they popped off in the yard too. Some 30-odd people got arrested and got new cases. They were shooting tear gas and all that. I saw it on my black and white 2 days later on the news inside my suite. So I was glad I missed it. But me and Old Timer, we ate good. So as the weeks go by, I'm in there again. I'm prepping some pasta, getting ready. And I hear that flicker on my bars again. And I look over and I see Old Timer's hand with the kite. So I grab the note from his old hand and I open it up. And it says, "Youngblood, if you going to church today, I would skip it. Because I heard a young man gonna settle a debt in there. And you don't need to be around that. Also, if you go to the mess hall and you grab a carton of milk and bring it back and mix it with the powdered cheese, it'll make it Alfredo, just like Italian food." So shoot, heck, that's exactly what I did. I stayed back from church, got that milk, mixed it with the powdered cheese to make that Alfredo, and it turned out just like Old Timer said. And right when I was fixing his container and passing it through the bars, I seen a young man on a stretcher coming down the tier all bloodied up from church, so I was glad I missed it. But me and Old Timer, we ate good. So for some 9 odd months, I lived next to Old Timer, getting this advice in cooking and otherwise. And what I took away from it was that in this life, with very little, I can create something beautiful and share it with other people to give them the feeling of nostalgia, euphoria. And that's what Old Timer offered to me. And so that's what I took from him. And I keep it like a superpower to this day. So you can put me in any kitchen with any amount of stuff and I'll be able to create something with love and share it. So I was paroling and I stepped out onto the tier and Old Timer called to me, "Youngblood." So I walked up to his suite and he was gripping the bars and he said, "Youngblood, I know you paroling, and I just want to tell you that when you get out there, don't violate your parole because it's messed up in here and you don't need to be around this. Also, when you get out there, if you would write me a letter and let me know that you're doing good out there, that would warm my heart and make me feel real happy. I would appreciate that." And so I said, "Old Timer, I would love to do that for you, but it's going to be really hard to get you that letter unless you tell me your real frickin' name."
That's going to do it for this week's edition of the Howl Podcast. Thanks so much for joining us, and let me know your favorite Mexican restaurant by emailing me, ethan@ncpr.org. Don't forget to subscribe to the Howl newsletter so you can get news, stories, book recommendations, and music picks delivered directly to your email inbox every single week. Sign up at ncpr.org/subscribe. Coming up next week, I'll invite my younger brother Ian into the studio, and we'll hear about some bloodthirsty Boy Scouts at a haunted summer camp.
There's a moment of silence, the world stops for a second, and then there's the most blood-curdling, god-awful scream that you have ever imagined. The hand retreats. The next sound I think I hear is Stumpy falling backward over one of our guy ropes on the tent and landing in our Garden of Eden of crosses. There. God was on our side.
The show is written, produced, and edited by me. I'm Ethan Shanty. David Summerstein is our script supervisor. Caitlin Kelly handles social media. Doyle Dean is our production manager. And Bill Hanel is our director of digital services. Our theme music is by famous letter writer of Plattsburgh. To hear more stories and to find out when we're going to be live on stage in a community near you, visit ncpr.org/howl. See you next week. This is NCPR North Country Public Radio.